For the boot cake, I start with a 10-inch by 3-inch tall square, a 7 or an 8-inch by 3-inch tall round, and two 4-inch by 3-inch tall little rounds. If you want to fill your cake, go ahead and split and fill it ahead of time. I don't split and fill the little ones because they will probably be cut off. Use your original pattern and place it on your cake, and then carve straight down, tracing the pattern. My cake is frozen. I find it easier to carve if it's cold. You can do it if it's warm, but it will likely crumble a little bit and you'll have a little bit harder time. Here's where your dowels are going to have to go through. So you can either cut them out with a knife, or you can use a dowel, preferably a PVC pipe. A solid dowel, it doesn't do quite as well, and just poke it through. Right in the center. Now it is frozen, that's why it's so hard. There we go. Now we're ready to put it on your support. Use your pattern again and place it on the smaller 7-inch round cake. Now it only has to go to the back side because the front of the boot is obviously a whole lot shorter than the back. And then go ahead . And as we did with the first one, right in the center of the squares, core it so it will go over your dowels and it will be perfectly placed. There we go. The next step is to use your base that you made and simply line up the holes and slide your cake down on there. Go ahead and take frosting . We don't need to cover the whole top because honestly you're going to cut that part off anyway. So why waste icing? Okay. I use plastic straws or dowels for this. If you use the PVC pipe, if it was going to travel a long way, I might put the PVC or PEX pipe to support it. But because it's not going to really go anywhere, I just use plastic bubble straws. And you want to stick them in. I measure one and I mark it. And then I'm going to cut about 10 of them to match that size. I've cut my straws and now I put them around the edge. Now this one's going to be pretty close because there's not much cake on the side. make sure you push it all the way down to the board. There we go. And then I actually go ahead and put some frosting on them again. With my original pattern, I cut just the heel part out, a little bit longer maybe, and put a hole in it because this is going to be our support board. Put that on your cake. Press it down really well so you know that it's supported. And then take your 7-inch round that you cut and slide it on. Using your boot silhouette pattern, carve the shape of your boots. When you have one side cut, turn it around, flip your pattern over, and cut the other side. When you're carving the shape of your cake, you'll notice that there will be some places where the cake does not fill in. All you do, put icing on it, smooth it out a little bit, and then use the pieces of cake that you've cut off to fill it in. I've placed a pair of boots in the background here so that I can look at them because I really don't have a pattern that I can make that will give you the idea of what it should look like in here except for real boots. So, all you do is look at the real boots or get a picture of real boots. Make sure you round out the toes, and always notice on real boots back there, they go in. So you're going to have to go in. Now I've hit my board here and we're going to have to cut it. Take an X-Acto blade and all you do is cut through it. And then make sure you remove the piece. Sorry, it's a little hard for me to cut at that angle. Hopefully you can see this. I keep digging it out between the boots. And I actually like to give them a little bit bigger of a gap here because it will be easier to put fondant on it. Now if you notice, I'm cutting a little farther than the board on the bottom. That's because when we frost it, it's going to be that thick. With your boots turned around, you can see how they kind of fit together. They go in here and then they come out. So that's what we want to do. Be very careful when you are cutting up here, because if you cut right in here too close to your dowels, then your cake might get loose and fall. See, there's our dowel right there. Don't cut any more, at least from that side. Now, I'm not cutting these apart because having them together, that will help stabilize it. When you get to this part, go ahead and pop it in the freezer. When you think you have your cake cut to just about the right size and the right shape, the easiest way to tell is to actually ice it with a very thin coat. When you put the thin coat of icing on it, you can really see what the shape of the cake is going to be. Sometimes when it's just cake crumbs, you can't tell. When I do a base coat, I try to go with the shape of the boot. If your cake is crumbing a lot, go ahead and toss it back in the freezer for about 15-20 minutes and that'll firm it up. Take the cake out of the freezer and then you can look at it and see how well it compares to the real boots. And go through and just kind of smooth it with the sharp part of your knife. And I'm really just pressing down here. You can also do it with your hands. As long as it's frozen, you can smooth it out this way. When you're doing this, notice the places that you need to fix. Like there's a hole, a divot right here. I'll need to fill that up with icing. I actually like where the boards are on this. I like to leave them because the back of the boot always have this line right in there. So the line of the board is perfect on the back. Okay, we have our basic shape in here. Next thing I'm going to do is to add the cake on the top of this. Since the original support is right here, I don't think that we really need any more support here. But if you wanted to put straws in there and a board, you could, but I really wouldn't do it. Just pipe some icing. And I cut off a piece where it's going to touch the other one. Put your final coat on it. That's going to be a little bit thicker than your other coat. Fill in any spots that are divots and need to be fixed. Look at what you've done compared to the real boots, and it looks like it's pretty close to me. So from there are two ways we do this. We can either let it air dry or put a fan on it and let the icing crust. Crusting is when you can touch it and no frosting comes up. Or you can pop it in the freezer for another 10 or 15 minutes, and when it comes out, you smooth it by hand. The icing has crusted, which means I can touch it and the icing doesn't stick to me. So we can use the Viva method to smooth them out. What that is you take a smooth paper towel and choose the smooth side. It has a texture on one side and it's very smooth on the other. And you just lay it over your crusted buttercream. This will not work with buttercream that has not crusted. And you rub pretty hard. You need to be able to feel the icing underneath it. Using this method, you can shape your boots into just the shape you want them. You do need probably a whole roll of Viva paper towel because you go through quite a bit. If the icing sticks on one, you have to throw it away and use another one. As you can see, our boots are looking very much more like the real boots. What I like about using the Viva method is we can also give some of the shapes of the boots in there just by putting the Viva on here and then using our hand to shape it. Hopefully you can see it. See how I kind of pressed it in and made a wrinkle? The real boots, especially around the ankle part, they have these wrinkles. So when I peel it off, your boot looks more realistic. Where the Viva bends, when you rub it into it, see how the Viva looks like cloth? The buttercream that's underneath will look like cloth. I really like that effect a lot.